Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. This week we are reading, we are having read Elantris chapters 49 through 53, wherein Raoden fixes the magic, kinda, sorta, almost, and then turns himself into a doula, a wacky doula who fights with Serene with some swords, and then he reveals himself when some very, very bad stuff goes down. So I am Data, and with me is with us is the baby. That was perfect timing.
With us is the child.
Yep, sorry about that, everyone. It's Jamie and baby.
Dak. How do I follow that act?
And Joe. Yeah, and
Right,
Joe. I'm here.
There's no following that. Sorry, guys.
No.
Hang on to something, everyone. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Feed the fire, set me free in this city of dreams. Push my mind into overload. Hack the wire, smash the gene in this city of dreams. We'll be immortal in the code. Mind into overload.
So yeah, it's been a couple weeks, guys. Good to be back. Everyone's excited to get into the book again, I hope. Joe was pointing out in the break that in Serene's chapter in 53, Brandon just has to throw in a Raoden perspective, which we have seen at least once or twice before. But what you guys are going to notice as we get into part 3 is the perspective system, as stuff gets popping, starts to break down a little bit. And there may even be some perspectives from characters who are not our 3 perspective characters. Oh my god.
Bum, bum, bum.
Why are we doing that so close to the end? It's such a nice, predictable formula. You know what I'm in for. Oh man.
Yeah, it's supposed
But
to
also
throw you.
cool.
You're like, oh my gosh, what's happening? Like, this is not what I'm used to.
Oh my god, Bear's driving. How can that be?
So what did you guys think of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chapters that we read this week?
I'm so glad you said 5 because I was like, I'm pretty sure it's 5 chapters. I read 5 chapters. Yeah, no, really liked it again. I'm glad we've got some things coming together. Joe's prediction previously about the earthquake panned out. Well done, Joe, to fix the AonDor. So that was really cool to see that. I guess to see us actually able to finally use some of the magic as well. I feel like I've got a better idea now of what they were trying to do, having seen some of it work. So I really liked that. I am so glad that finally, page 492, they realize that they've met each other. Well, Serene realizes that she's met her husband. That made me pretty happy. It took a very long time, but finally, it's out there. Yeah, some stuff went down. I remember I was thinking, when Ahan left the group meeting at the end, I was like, oh man, this guy's gonna be trouble. And then like the next page, it was like, wow, yep, there you go, he's trouble. Damn, I was hoping that was going to be a longer term thing, but no, it was really good. I've kind of forgotten about Raoden and his stuff going on. I feel like we don't really need his story at the moment. It's just kind of there. He started out so strong, but now is just kind of dwindling for me. I'm far more invested in what's going on with Raoden and Serene, but I guess that's where all the interesting stuff is at the moment. They'll resolve that and maybe tie Raoden and now Dilaf back in, and Wern just doesn't seem to care about Telri. Like, yep, not making that guy a Gyorn, whatever. But yeah, really, really happy to see things starting to pick up the pace a little bit and keep going, and we're coming out of Elantris for Raoden, which is really cool. I think it's clever the way that they've been able to get him back out. Yeah, looking forward to digging back into these chapters probably later today.
Yeah, that Raoden chapter is really like a bit odd and even maybe surreal, right? It's kind of like, okay, what's happening here?
Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. He sent Dilaf away, and now Dilaf is like, my plan is all coming together. Mwahaha. Okay, what's going on with you? So, I mean, obviously something's about to happen. I think we'll pick it up with a Raoden chapter anyway. But yeah, it's just kind of hanging around there. I don't really know what's waiting for us there. But we don't have much book left, and apparently there's a month till the deadline. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, a lot going on here. I'm going to come straight out in a minute. It took me longer to work out who Kalu was than I'm really proud of. I figured it out by the end of the chapter, so I think that's the crucial thing, like his introductory chapter. But like my reaction when he showed up was effectively Jay at the end of Dogma. He's like gets up, sees Alanis Morissette, it's like, who the fuck are you, lady? Like really angry, just like, come on, are we just introducing new people now? But yeah, no. Once I got over that was pretty good. Yeah, looking at Hrathen's chapter, like it's just sort of strengthening my suspicion that, like, I think I threw out as a joke a while ago that Dilaf could be the something from Darkor. Maybe like that's where this is leading, just like his little like sort of Mark Ruffalo at the end of Now You See Me act, like spoilers for that movie, but you know, where Morgan Freeman's in the cell and he's explaining it, then all of a sudden he realizes, turns around, Mark Ruffalo has vanished. Yeah, there's a lot going on. I don't know, the pace of this book is like throwing me a bit. I'm just like, we're still having meetings and talking about getting shit done this late in the game. It's, yeah, I don't know. It's good. There's a lot happening. Like that ending of this section that we did this week was, Jesus Christ. Okay, now we're really getting like. But I feel like we've been saying for a while now we're getting into the meat of things. But then things just sort of flick back to the status quo a bit. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a different sort of. We got used to it from Mistborn. Like the action really hits, and when things kind of happen, and this one is very much more of a. I don't even know what to call it really. I mean, it's kind of political, but it's not political like Well of Ascension was political. It's a different sort of political from that, but it's just a very different sort of story. And so we're like, okay, well, when's stuff gonna happen? Stuff happens. In here, you can say that for sure.
Oh yeah, but it's like every time I feel like, oh shit, this just happened, shit's about to get real, then it sort of just backflips and things go back to not quite how they were before, but almost, you know. Like, Hrathen gets thrown into Elantris. Oh, shit, where's this going to go? And he's out again. And, you know, people just like, oh, okay, hi. Then Serene gets thrown into Elantris, and he's like, oh, shit, where's this going? And she's out again, and they're still having meetings. Like, oh, okay. And, yeah, it's just like, there have been a few times in the book where I've just gone, I thought we were going to get a much more, like, explosive payoff than we actually did to this little plot thread. Like, again, not that this is a bad thing, but it's caught me off guard a bit.
I am sort of hoping what we end up with is what we had kind of at the end of the Mistborn trilogy, that we had so many little bits and pieces peppered throughout the trilogy that just came together really nicely in the end, so that there's still all these little things that seemed insignificant at the time that by the time we get to the end, it's going to be like, oh, wow, that was really clever. So while I sort of agree with you, it's like, oh, we're in, we're out, we're in, we're out. That was still pretty important, I guess, to the story that those things happened, but there's going to be little bits and pieces in there that I think are going to really come together and give us a bit of a wow factor. That's what I'm hoping for anyway.
Yeah,
I agree with both of you. I think that hopefully that's what we'll see at the end, is like just kind of a real, because I think we're used to now the style of his kind of abrupt culmination sometimes. So I'm hoping it's kind of woven up really tightly at the end, especially since this is more of a standalone story. It would be really nice just to see it completely woven up at the end. But as for the chapters, I think these were my favorite chapters of this book that we've read so far, honestly. The Hrathen one was a little weak, but I think that's just because there wasn't much to it. There wasn't a whole lot of information that was actually distributed. It was kind of more vague. Obviously, Dilaf is got something going on. I kind of agree with Dak that maybe he's from one of the monasteries or something, and maybe the assassins Royal called have something to do with Dilaf's new plan, because if all these Fjordal assassins are now hanging around in the city, and Dilaf is like cut from the same ilk or cloth, if you will, maybe he's kind of maybe putting himself in control of those guys that are now in the city, if he got word that they're there somehow. And maybe Royal was mistaken about where their loyalties actually belong, and that gave them an excuse to be in the city because Royal paid them to come. So that could be potentially interesting. But yeah, I really like these chapters. I like that the magic's finally working, if not all the way. You know, something that I quickly put together in my head was to make a more powerful Aeon. It seems like if he did it wrong a bunch, built up some door inside him, and then released it, but maybe it's not making the Aeon incorrectly that builds it up. Maybe it's just over time it building up. But I feel like but what I'm saying should be true because he is more affected by the kind of swelling of the door because I think he'd been practicing it more than everybody else. So if in some way doing it wrong a bunch could then build up a powerful swell and then he could create an Aeon, I feel like maybe that would maybe accomplish what he's looking for there. So that would be interesting to see if that were true. But yeah, that chapter was really awesome where he figures out the magic to an extent. He creates the illusion. They leave the whole Suri, and like this time with him meeting up with her, I felt like it was a little more relieving because time passes a little more quickly in these chapters than it has in the past chapters. So that's actually she figures out pretty quickly, at least from our perspective, that he's spirit, and then he ends up having to basically say that he's Raoden because Telri's making his move. So yeah, I really enjoyed pretty much everything we read. I'm excited to get finished with the book, which I know we're getting somewhat close to. But yeah,
we're getting pretty close. We got 2 episodes after this one, and that's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 chapters in the epilogues. Yeah, we're getting very close to the end here.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've been waiting the whole book. You're like, the magic's got to work at some point. We're not gonna have a book without magic in it. And so we finally got.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah, I feel like if he'd ended his first ever published book, like he's got a magic system and he doesn't actually reveal how it works, he probably wouldn't have gotten another deal for more books.
Right. But yeah, I kind of like Dak had a theory a while back that it was like maybe the door was leaking out through a door that was open somewhere, and they need to build up some door to get it to work right. And we find out that it was actually kind of the opposite because it was built up and then all of a sudden it popped out and it was kind of extreme.
I'm drawing it back to Secret History, assuming the people we saw in those were Lantrians. Maybe like he never gets to work completely right, like with the first drawings. Because I think I remember in Secret History them mentioning it's going to take some time to do X, Y, Z. So maybe they meant like it's going to take some time to build up door to like get this thing to work. So I don't know. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but I feel like they said it's going to take some time we need more time or something like that. So maybe my thinking is right on that. Like they have to build up door to get their magic to work.
Could be. Yeah, we still don't know if they can even use magic in their whatever realm, because we know that Kelsier couldn't use
the mind realm,
even when he swallowed some metal. But he was also dead, and we don't know if they're dead.
I don't know that they're dead. They may just be traveling between the realms.
Subspace highway.
Yeah. Well, because we know like people did that, especially in Scadrial, because that was like a thing. They said several times, like, "Oh yeah, this is like you disrupted an entire like merchant system."
Yep.
Like intergalactic merchant system. So obviously people that are alive, because Sexy Drifter is obviously alive.
And we met Chris and what's his name? Was Chris?
Yeah, map guy.
Yeah,
and they're just like, you shouldn't be here. You dead.
He's like, but you didn't know I'm awesome.
It's like, I'm not good at doing what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah. You know me. Nah, that ain't me.
I guess let's get into these chapters. And for some reason, I almost started on chapter 53. That's not what we're supposed to be doing.
Start at the beginning. A very good place to start.
So we start out with Raoden. And he's got the sweet thing where he's like, he stayed away from the library at first because it reminded him of her, and then he went back because it reminded him of her.
That particular line of prose, I was just like, okay, guy, we get it.
But he goes off on a bunch of Aeons and how he's starting to realize they really are connected to the land. Like they have all like the one for water has a wiggly line that matches the river, and just other ones all. Some of them make sense, like that one, that water has a river line. But then there's some that is like, I don't know why there's like a bunch of random dots on this one, but I guess maybe it has some significance to the land. But Serene was right. It looks like the land is integral to the form of the Aeons. And for 5 days after she leaves, he's just like trying to figure this out. And I don't know if we should feel bad that we kind of got a hold of it pretty quickly, and he's taken 5 days to be like, what's wrong? Of course, he's got a map that probably does not include that on it, since I doubt they have new maps in Elantris since the thing happened.
Yeah. Also,
That's what I was thinking about.
On a hunch?
Yeah. He said, didn't we think about it on a hunch? And also, we have like the perspective of reading more about what's going on than he does. His perspective is very like, I'm in the middle of all this.
Right. There's some interesting notes about how, like, if you change the line width, it can make the Aeon stronger or give you more control over the strength, basically. And so he's practicing with that, like drawing some really thick and some super thin. And Brandon says in his annotations that he's like, I'm not really a math guy, but I'm trying to give AonDor this mathematical feel. And I don't know how well that comes across in my mind, but maybe it feels that way to you guys.
I mean, to me, it just feels maybe like geometric, and like in the sense that you're trying to make shapes match up with something that's inherently exists, I guess. So, I mean, if he's talking about mathematically as far as proportions, like that does make sense, you know, if proportionally, if like the Aeon is supposed to symbolize a landscape, then you would want to get the proportions correct based on the rest of the shape you're drawing. So something might need to look wider or thinner based on the proportions that you're trying to adjust for.
Could also be how precise it is. Like maths, it's very black and white. Maybe it's about how like it has to be so precise and accurate.
Right, because in AonDor it works or it doesn't work, and in math it's like 2 + 2 is 4 or it's not 4. So, and I just like he's getting better and better constantly with the Aeons, but they don't work. He's like, why am I spending all this time learning all the intricacies of this magic when it doesn't work? And then also we found out that Marishi has invented shoes with thick leather soles so that you can walk better or not get injured as much, or I don't know.
Was there something in the soles?
Yeah, it says they're studded with nails.
So he's invented tap shoes.
Yeah, right. It kind of sounds that way.
I mean, it's not quite a trebuchet, but yeah.
Hey guys, you can also dance with these shoes. They're great. Wait, what?
That's how Marishi started a chorus line.
A chorus line.
I just want Galadon to just break out in song now. Because aren't doulas famous for that, probably?
Yeah, probably, right? Yeah.
Doulas are famous for Broadway.
I can see it. They're very colorful with their clothing and such. And personalities, apparently.
I just see him breaking out now in Raoden's having a bad time, and he's just come out with a make him laugh. Just brings me so much joy.
It's like
my father said, "Be an Elantrian, my son."
It's like, where did you get that?
I love it.
Where did you get that cane?
Marishi made it. He's good at that.
Yeah.
My father said, "Be an Elantrian, my son, but be a sad one."
He's in charge of Marishi's in charge of props for their production, and
Sure.
It's like, I thought you guys hated each other. Well, we did till we found out a shared love of show tunes.
Yeah. We find out that Serene has been having Aish come and keep them apprised of the goings-on back in the city, and she's arranging for supply drops. Although there's some weird mysteriousness with whoever is delivering the drops, because Raoden is not allowed to see who it is, apparently. So they have a talk where he's like, I can't figure out what has changed about the land to make AonDor different. Like, the mountains are still there, the lake's still there. I don't know. And he's like, well, maybe something needs to be added. He's like, well, yeah, I thought about that, but we don't have any new rivers or new lakes or mountains or, oh my gosh, the chasm.
That tweaked to us last week. Like, again, like I think it was just Jane was explaining something, and Joe just went, oh yeah, what about this thing? And we've gone, oh my god, yeah. And then like next week, oh okay, there it is.
Yep, it did that one didn't sit long, but I think part of it is that after they figured out the connection to the land, it's not super believable that Raoden would go too long without figuring like that part of it out.
Yeah.
So you can't hold it too much and make Raoden seem smart. But Galadon's like, but no, the chasm was caused by the Riad. And Raoden's like, but what if it wasn't though? What if it's the other way around and we just thought that? And so he tries to add a line about where the chasm would be. He's not. I mean, he's like, maybe right about here, and it doesn't work. And Galadon's like, yeah, I guess that's it. And then Raoden's like, no, hold on. And he like draws this super complex Aeon again, and then he has to kind of feel for the right spot, and he does it. Adds this one line, and the door kind of explodes through him, bursting free instead of attacking him this time. And after it's over,
and he had to use flame for some reason.
Yeah.
He's like your classic wizard in any D&D campaign. It's like, I cast Fireball. Doesn't matter what the situation is.
And you're like, wait,
Fireball.
your friends are in the vicinity. Fireball. I don't care. You just lit everybody, all of your friends and yourself on fire. Why didn't you tell me that's what it was going to do? I did!
Worth it.
We were at the tavern. We were just trying to order drinks, and I was trying to get the bartender's attention.
That reminds me of one time when my friend Data tried to throw acid in some lady's face, but then totally whiffed.
Oh my gosh, that was a bad moment. Yeah, my character's so mad, and we're in the middle of this conversation, and he's just like, okay, if we're gonna start something, I want to surprise them, and he just reached out and he goes like, acid spray, and then I had to make an attack roll, and I rolled the 1, and he's just like, yep, nothing happens, and the lady's like, did you just point at me and yell acid spray? Like, no.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Man, you rolled a natural 1, and that's the worst that happened to you. You got light.
Well, I thought the embarrassment was punishment enough, Dak.
Fair enough.
No, he really just didn't want that fight to start. Because nobody wanted that fight to start but me. We would have had to take on the whole town at that point. Anyway, but yes, I like it. Like, he suddenly realizes after he feels the door go through him, he's like, I just fixed something that I can just tell the door is not going to attack me again like it has been. And it takes him a moment for he hears a sound like a fire, and he realizes that the Aeon has started glowing, and what Aeon that was. And he's like, Galadon, get down. And the Aeon becomes a twisting vortex of fire, passing just above Galadon's head and immolating an entire bookshelf.
Not the thick books.
And
Just the biology ones.
Yeah. Who needs those?
Well, he might have if he'd had those biology books. Maybe he could have figured out a good healing Aeon.
Yeah,
that's true. Galadon says, "What was that?" And Raoden says, "I think I just destroyed the biology section." Next time, how about you don't use Aeon Ihei to test your theories, Kolo?
Galadon's like, could you fucking not?
It just happened to be the one he was practicing. And also, it was super dramatic because I added a bunch of modifiers to it. So they had to clean up and make sure the fire was out so it doesn't spread to the other books. But it's just like this one case is just a pile of charcoal or whatever and little bits of book. So instead, he tries Aeon Aish, which we established earlier. That's like what was on like sheets of metal in people's houses and just like created light. It was like having a lamp over there. So he puts it up and it totally works. It makes light. It just hangs there in the air making light. No heat, no anything, just a light source. And he's like,
this just makes me think like, okay, so Serene's Aeon is Aish. We know that. It's like, so his name is just Lamp.
I think I may have to look at it now. I think it's light is technically what Aish is.
Yeah, but I just like the idea of Serene just like doing a Steve Carell impression and saying, "I love Lamp."
I love Lamp. So
Aish means light or illumination.
Ah, so his name's Light, huh? Does he have a death note?
What's Raoden's Aeon's name or Seon's name? No,
Ian.
Ian, yeah, that's what it was.
He's healing, isn't he?
Ian means wisdom, but that's the meaning of the thing. Aeon Ian was used in AonDor as the basis for healing.
Okay.
So that's interesting. Aeon Ire, I-R-E, by the way, is time or age. Anyway, back to the book. And Galadon's excited. Like, you fixed it. AonDor works. Oh my gosh. And Raoden's like, this Aeon Aish isn't as bright as it's supposed to be. And Galadon's like, well, how would you even know, man? You never seen one work before. But I read about him, and this one should be like way brighter. And so he tries another one. We also find out how to get rid of an Aeon because that's never been relevant before. He just reaches up and like taps it, and it fades away. So he draws one with all of the power increasing modifiers he knows, and it ends up being a little bit brighter than the first one. He's like, this should be too bright for us to even look at. There's something still not working right. Galadon asks, is the chasm line wrong? And he's like, no, that's obviously most of the problem because it works now. It's just not as powerful as it's supposed to be. So there must be something else happening. So as they experiment with some other Aeons, they realize that they cannot target their own bodies with anything. Not with the healing that he tries, not with anything. And that goes back to Raoden's theory that they're like half transformed. They're stuck in the middle of the transformation, so the Aeons can't detect that there's anything there to target. Galadon is horribly disappointed because he's like, what is the point then? Like, all this shit that we've been through, and we still can't fix us. And Raoden's like, well, yeah, but we have magic now. Like, this is awesome. And they can't figure out why that first explosion was so powerful. Raoden even tried that same one again, and it says sputtered out barely enough fire to warm a cup of tea.
Because the door had built up. Come on, man. It's basic mathematics.
Yeah, he's like, maybe there's some sort of buildup. And I released it and drained that reservoir. And then he gets an idea. Like, wait a second. And he gets out a book, draws up an Aeon from the book, and all of a sudden he looks normal again. So
here's my question. And of course we don't know the answer. So this is like just more of a question for the group. If the Aeons were at full strength, I wonder would his illusion Aeon like make his illusion tangible? Because later she just kind of pushes through his face, you know? Yeah. So I was just like curious, like would that make his illusion tangible if his Aeon was like at full strength?
This is a good question. I think in my brain it was always like this particular one just didn't need that much juice to work. But maybe you might be right. Yeah, it would be in some way more powerful, whether that's tangible or whether that's something else. I can't think of what else actually. Maybe you could like make a bigger illusion if it was more powerful. I don't know. But yeah, he creates an illusion that makes him look normal. He can't apply it to himself, but he can apply it to his clothes, which when he wears, he has an illusion on. And he's like, yeah, it only covers up my skin. It doesn't actually change anything. And Galadon's like, well, then what's the point? And Raoden's like, the point is we can now leave Elantris looking like normal people. Which, yeah, kind of a big deal. And I like, as a note in the annotations for the next chapter, Brandon's like, so in order for Kalu to appear in this chapter, Raoden and Galadon really had to do some serious moving. Because you have to realize Raoden's is the first in the triad. So this is the same day. It's like Serene's chapter is the same day as what we just saw. So he's like, I imagine they made the discovery early in the morning, and then Raoden was so eager to get out of the city and find out what was happening. They put on new faces, snuck out, went to the market to buy some costumes, and then basically went straight to Royal's house. Looking for
pretty
Royal.
Confident that worked, weren't they?
Right? He did not expect to find Serene there, obviously, but, He also points out that, in case you've forgotten, he did build in earlier in the book that Raoden had AonDor teach him how to fight to annoy his father. Yes, we get to Serene, and she's talking to Aish. He's like, yeah, I left a message with Master Galadon, then I went to check on the king. And she's like, what's going on with the king? It's like, he's hanging out, lounging around. His largest current complaint is that there aren't enough young women left on the palace staff, which they were being ritually sacrificed, so yeah.
On one level, that's super gross. On another level, that's fucked up, man.
Yeah.
It's like, where are all the young ladies? The previous king killed them. Huh. Well, we need more.
Yeah, get some more of those. They don't have to worry about that anymore, probably.
And the staff are just like, are you going to kill them? No.
No, of course not. Wink.
I mean, unless you
wink.
Unless you think eating them is killing them. Is that?
Oh God.
Do you think that's the same? Or?
Tell Ray the cannibal.
So
I've
we
got
don't
this
really
nice
have
bottle
good,
of Chianti here.
employment.
So.
We don't have really good employee satisfaction at the moment, so hiring people is really difficult.
Your approval rating is at an all-time low among the staff as well. What? Why?
Does it count as staff turnover if they die?
I mean,
guess. It's a form of turnover.
It's not a great form of turnover to have.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it looks like I would say 80% of your turnover is due to death.
Which, your predecessor inflicted.
Yep.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
death or mysterious disappearance, which could probably be attributed to death.
Yep. And Serene's just like, oh god, we've exchanged one idiot for another. How did he even get rich enough to be a duke? And Aisha's like, oh, actually, he didn't. His brother actually did the work, and he just inherited all that money.
Someone else who did turn over upon death.
Mm.
I'm just assuming he killed the brother. Like, I imagine it'd probably never come up again. But I'm just like, well, Telri did that.
Yeah, I believe it. Raoden is visiting the king daily now, but everyone's like, why doesn't he just convert? Like, why is he waiting? We know. But everyone else is like, no, what's going on here? And there's rumor going around that Raoden has drafted a piece of legislature that will make it illegal to not be Drethi, and that he's trying to get the king to sign it, which that would be bad. But yeah, Telri's not converting, and he hasn't signed this thing, and everyone's like, I wonder why. But she's heading to fencing practice to get some of that frustration out, and they now hold it at Duke Royal's house, given that she no longer lives in the palace, and Eshin no longer... I don't know where Eshin is. She went nuts, apparently, so who knows where she ended up.
She'll be back. Secret villain. Like a Disney movie.
I mean, not that I care too much, but I also kind of feel bad for her.
But yeah, she never seemed bad, unless she actually is the secret villain.
Correct.
She didn't do anything to deserve all of the horrible things that happened to her.
Yeah, she just existed and was a frivolous woman. That's it's unfortunate.
Well, she was married to an abusive husband who... It seemed like she was just like constantly walking on eggshells to avoid getting yelled at by him. So...
But yeah. It's like, oh, let's not bother the king.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Serene is looking back on her days in Elantris with fondness. Not just because of Spirit, but because she was like part of this community. She was accepted in a way that she's never been before. Because she's always been, even here, she's the princess and everyone looks up to her and expects things from her. And they're not really her friends. They're like her posse. But in Elantris, she was just like, one of the crew. And so she goes and she starts practicing her fencing forms. And she's so absorbed in that and getting all tired and sweaty that it takes her a while to realize that all the other women have stopped practicing and have gathered around a newcomer over at the side of the garden. A man dressed in blue and green silks with a feathered hat. A Duladen aristocrat with a dark-skinned servant who's massive and bulky. That's a little harsh. Like, why you gotta do Galadon like that? I mean, I guess it's true, but like most doulas of lower birth, so apparently the lower class doulas are all just like hulking big dudes.
Okay.
Yeah, good to know. Something else that they're known for over there. And she's like, what's going on? And Aisha's like, oh, that's Kalu. He just arrived a few minutes ago. Apparently one of the few Republicans to escape the massacre, and he's been hiding out in southern Arelon. And Kalu does this over the top, like, oh, you must be Princess Serene. They say you were the most fair woman in all of Opalon. And she's like, yeah, right. Although he does make her blush a little bit, and she's like, oh, I hate men that can do that.
I hate men who compliment me.
But yeah, he's really playing the doula stereotype hard. And Brandon says in his annotations, like, since the beginning of the book, I've been wanting to show a real doula because Galadon is such a quote unquote bad doula. And so I was pleased to finally have the opportunity of working Kalu into the plot, because you've been hearing about doulas for this whole book from other people, but now you get to meet one, or at least someone pretending to be one. And then in parentheses it says, I hope I'm not giving anything away by letting you know that Kalu is really Raoden. It wasn't supposed to be a surprise. So yes, he's over the top, flamboyant, just all sorts of crazy.
Oh wow, like Galadon is just going, oh my god, why are you doing this? We couldn't pick any other nationality for you to pose as. No, you're gonna pose as one of mine and make a complete ass out of yourself. Great.
Well, and I like the way it describes when Royal shows up. It's like, apparently the old man finally realized his property had been invaded by a roving doula. And Kalu's instantly like bowing and praising the Duke. It's like how honored he is to meet such a venerable man. And Serene's over on the side like, I don't like him. And Aisha's like, well, yeah, you never get along very well with Duladin aristocrats. She's like, I don't know. He seems pretty messed up. There's something wrong here. He didn't even have an accent. And Aisha's like, well, I mean, a lot of them didn't have accents. Like, I've met a bunch with not even the slightest accent. And finally, she puts her finger on it. She's like, this guy is too stereotypic Dula aristocrat. Like, he represents everything that they're supposed to be. Foolishly haughty, overdressed, overmannered, completely indifferent when it came to just about everything. See, once again, stuff that Dulas are known for. It's their aristocrats are overmannered, overdressed, and indifferent to everything, which maybe explains how they all ended up dead.
I feel like we need a checklist of all the things duelists
Right?
are known for, and just check them off as we go. It's like, do any of these contradict each other? Like, I feel like duelists are just known for fucking everything.
Well, yeah, and like in the very next paragraph, it's like he's telling the story of his escape, and he's like, oh yeah, duelists don't just talk with their mouths; they use their entire body as part of the storytelling. Here's another thing that these people are known
That
for.
they do. Yeah. I like to think like, the feudal empire strolled in and they're just like, hey, they're invading. How do you feel about it? I'm indifferent.
Yeah, yeah, whatever. I'm sure it'll work itself out.
If I do not survive, tell my wife hello.
Hello.
They're invading. Please spare me your life story.
Your neutralness, it's a beige alert.
Serene, I don't remember the second or third time that she's done this, but her solution is, hey, you want to fight? And he's like, I don't know if I really want to fight. And she's like, no, you're going to fight, and throws a sword at him.
Let's fight!
I've been pissed off all day. I need to hit something. You just volunteered.
It was like this. I remember Eondel, at least. She did this exact same thing, too. And I think someone before Eondel, where it's just like, defend yourself. Jumps into the fight.
Should have done this with Iodon.
Yeah. It probably would not have worked. He just like, what am I supposed to do with this? Swords
Men
are
don't
for
hold
losers.
swords.
Yeah, exactly. And so he tries to be like, oh, well, I don't really want to. I'm hardly dressed for this. And she's like, well, we'll make it a quick bout then. And she just comes at him. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And they have a little fight.
Not only does she come at him, she like uses a more dangerous weapon, not even like a practice weapon. And then it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna cut this guy. Like,
Yep.
That's I think she might be kind of insane.
Well, she apparently, like, she thought that she was catching him. Like, I'm gonna call his bluff right here. He's not really a doula, and so he'll never fight. She's like, if I'd known that he was actually gonna fight, then I wouldn't have chosen the dangerous blades. But too late now.
She's having a rough time.
Yeah, but it's not like she was. Like I said, it's not like she wasn't doing the same stuff, not thinking this all the way through back at the beginning either. So this is just her.
Sure. Yeah.
And so they have a little fight, and he doesn't really show too well for himself. He's on the defensive pretty much the whole time. And she thinks if he is really one of them, he's like one of their less good fencers. Like usually 3 out of 4 of these people can beat me when I've fought them before. So I like that she's met enough of them and fought enough of them that she has a good sampling of like I know she was, her father's chief ambassador or whatever to a lot of places, but it's like, really, you went to Duladon and was just like, hey, let's fight. Okay, maybe I believe Serene did that. Yeah, okay.
Aish did say she never got on with Duladel aristocrats, so maybe she has fought quite a lot of them. Maybe that's why she had to leave Duladel.
They kicked her out.
They're like, we were indifferent to you before, but now we're just annoyed. You gotta leave.
It's like everyone in Duladel, she's just like, I'm just going to challenge you to a duel. It's like, and these apples are $14. I'll duel you for them.
Yeah, duelist society is known for dueling for apples.
Yeah. It's like, it's the possum hunters are there, and they're like, son number 1, yes, she's dueling again.
Aw, we got to get the dueling brooms out to clean up the dueling mess.
In their fight, he like jumps into the fountain, and she feels her sword hit something, but can't see an injury, and is wondering about that. And he uses this opportunity to do a flashy little move and sticks his sword into the ground and pops a yellow flower out of nowhere. It's like, oh, my lady, you found my secret. Never have I been able to face a beautiful woman in combat. My sword refuses to strike. And all the women sigh dreamily behind him. Oh my gosh, these ladies. Like Serene's like, where did you get the flower? Well, whatever.
I was expecting her, like, when all the women start sighing dreamily, she was just going to eye them off and just say, one of you is next.
Yeah. It's like you could feel the eye roll on the page when he said that to her. She's just like, oh my god.
I do like, as he's leaving, he smiles at her, and it says, a smile she found strikingly familiar for some reason. Then he performed another one of his ridiculous bows and allowed himself to be led away. And we cut to Raoden, who is walking through the market, and most of the merchants set up in the market are showing feudal colors. And he goes through this whole thing about how, these guys would have been planning to come here for this big market. They would have bought their passage. They would have bought their wares that they were going to sell and invested so much into this way before King Idon died. So despite the craziness, they had to make the trip. They need this money. So Raoden tries to walk through confidently to give the merchants like a measure of security that things were okay. Things were not well, not at all. His hurried call via Seon to Viking Pope had come too late. Telri's message had already arrived. Fortunately, Rin had displayed only slight anger at Telri's presumptuousness. He's like, look, I don't have any patience for fools. Obviously, I'm never going to make a foreigner Gjorn. So, deal with it. And Raoden, as we know, has been meeting with Telri every day. We learned in the previous chapter. It is not going well. He seems slightly more reasonable than that first day when he tossed Raoden out, but he is not seeming like he's moving any closer to openly converting.
I want to be a Gjorn. The Pope said no. Well, shit.
But I wanna. And Raoden's like, it's okay, you still got a month left. We can do this.
I like how Telri's like, I want to be a genie. And, Raoden's like, genie god said you can't. So, I can still grant you wishes. No, I want to be a genie. Well.
Raoden sees one of the blood-red priest robes on someone ducking into one of the tents. He's like, wait a second. My artists are supposed to be in solitary meditation, not idly shopping. Just get over here and see who I can yell at to feel better about myself right now.
Who's wagging school?
What he finds is a place where offerings have been burnt. Incense, rather, has been burnt. And he kind of reaches in and rubs his fingers in the ash. And a voice says, the ashes are like the wreckage of your power, are they not, Raoden? He turns around and it's Dilloff. He's like, what are you doing here? And Dilloff just stands there staring at him creepily. He's like, I just asked you a question. You failed, Raoden. That fool Telri is playing with you. You, a Gjorn of Shu-Dereth. Men do not make demands of the feudal empire, Raoden. They should not. He's like, what do you even... Shut up. Not even your business. Dilloff's like, you were close, I admit, but your foolishness cost you the victory. I don't even know what Raoden could have done to make this work the way it was supposed to do, but apparently it was his foolishness, according to Dilloff, that screwed things up. And Dilloff's like, it slipped away, hasn't it, Raoden? My victory is so sweet in the face of your failure. And Raoden's like, what victory? You haven't achieved any. Dilloff? And Dilloff just leaves. He's like, Dilloff, what victory, Dilloff?
So, yeah, it's like, I still think he has a personal stake in Elantris, but, like, what's his personal beef with Raoden? It seems like he's, like, really just enjoying seeing Raoden fail. Like,
yeah, right? That
was this the
definitely
guy
seems more personal than before.
Yeah, did he, like, is this the guy who they wouldn't allow in Darkor Monastery until after Raoden got the boot? And so it's like, oh, we got a spot opened up, you can come in.
Maybe it's just like Raoden pulled such a big one, taking everything away from him when he came back from Elantris. Maybe he's now like relishing that he's turning things around somehow. But we cut to Raoden going, ow, as Galadon is sewing closed a cut in his cheek. And Galadon's like, stop whining. Kurata's better at this. Well, wait till we get back to Elantris then. And he says, no, I can't. I can feel this one ripping open a little bit each time I smile. See, that hadn't even occurred to me that, yes, they keep these wounds forever, but with something like a cut, you would make it worse by moving around if it never is closing up.
It's awful.
Right? He's like, and of course it has to be here where it's like every time I smile or talk or whatever, it's opening more. Why couldn't she have hit me in the arm? And Kaladin's like, because we're Elantrians. If a bad thing can happen to us, it will. And he's like, you were lucky you could even fight with that body of yours, because you got to remember their bodies are kind of not, their muscle tone fades. He's like, yeah, it was not easy. That's why I had to end it so quickly. And they have a discussion about, like, so am I a convincing doula? Because they didn't have time to practice this with how fast they had to do this whole thing. Galen's like, well, I wouldn't have believed you, but they seem to. We really had another choice. Because only so many countries speak Aonic, so he can't pretend to be an Aeroline noble, because these are all Aeroline nobles. They would know whether that was true. Can't pretend to be from Teod, because Serene would know. So if he wanted to speak Aonic, that left Duladel. He tried to imitate, so they'd practice a little bit, I guess, because he tried to imitate Galadon's accent, and it said even his pronunciation of a simple word such as Kolo had sent Galadon into gales of laughter. So instead, he gets to play an aristocrat, and he's like, Raoden had met many of them, and all replicating their personality required was a sense of flamboyance and a nonchalant attitude. And he's like, I'm pretty sure Serene is suspicious, and Galadon's like, well, yeah, she's more paranoid than most people.
Angry young woman.
And he wants to tell her, but she refuses to be alone with him and wouldn't even read the letter that he sent her. She returned it unopened. So when later on, when she's like, why did you tell me? I'm like, well, he tried. Why were you being a jackass? How about that?
Yeah, sure. This identity he wants to like give to her.
And Brandon says in the annotations, he's like, okay, so I admit that we're pushing the bounds of probability a little bit here with Raoden's persona and Serene not figuring it out and him not telling her, because that's pretty much the main reason he would have left Elantris, is to see her. So it doesn't make sense that he would purposefully try to fool her. So I had to add in this stuff that was like, she didn't want to be alone with him. She refused his letter. Maybe that's all a little unplausible too, but because I can't see Serene avoiding anything that smells of politics. But also she's way more impetuous than other political characters I've used. So she could send away Kalu's letter because of a mood, or simply because she thought he was trying to taunt her. But my favorite part is he says, the saddest part about Kalu, I think, is that he's not a real character. And I had so much fun writing him that when I was done, I wish that I had a real full character to play with. And all the characterization gets undermined by the fact that it's just Raoden playing a part.
Well, I mean, how hard would it have been to just include this sort of character in the group of conspirators from the start of the book? I mean, you got the Jindo guy already.
That's true.
There's a plausible reason, like the Kalu identity passes muster to the characters because there's a plausible reason for him to exist. So there could have easily been one in the group.
That's true. Yeah. I can see the thing of that.
Yeah, I get that to an extent, although the way that it comes out from Royal later, it sounds like his character is actually kind of implausible, because he asks, like, well, how many other Republicans have come up since the fall of Duladel? He's like, none. 0. You are the only one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but he's come here, and apparently everyone has accepted him pretty easily. But what he really wants is to get invited into one of these secret meetings. He's like, if I want to do any good for Erlen, I got to get into that group. And if he could tell Serene who he was, that would probably be easy. But she's not listening, so he's got to figure out how to get invited. And so he puts back on his illusion, and he's like, the magnificent Kalu returns. And Galen's like, please, not in private. I come close enough to strangling you in public. Ah, what a life. Loved by all women, envied by every man. Oh, man. I like Kalu also, so it's kind of disappointing that we don't get more of him. But
what a name, too. It's like he's the great Kazoo. It's just like, it's such a name. Mr. Kalu.
I was reminded of Baloo the bear from the Jungle Book.
Sure, yeah.
And it's like, oh, and now Phil Hartman's here.
He also has a very relaxed attitude, so.
Yep. He's just going to start singing the bare necessities. The dual necessities?
Yeah. The dual, yeah, I like it.
Someone write that.
And, you just need your...
Try not to get killed by Disney lawyers.
I was trying to think of what the dual necessities would be, but it's all like relaxing and being optimistic and...
Being good at everything.
What?
Did you say Phil Hartman? Did Phil Hartman play Baloo one time?
In the Disney movie, I thought he did.
Really? No,
I don't know. I don't know about that, Dick. I'm not trying to call you out, but I'm just curious now because I'm confused.
Well, let's find out. Disney's Jungle Book, 1967.
Oh, that's probably too early. Never mind.
Yeah, I was about to say Phil Hartman would have been pretty. You might be thinking of Phil Harris. That's who played Baloo.
Oh, that. Yep. Okay, that'll be it.
He wants the bare necessities. I thought you might have been talking about the live action one, and I was like, dude, he's way dead.
Yeah, that was way after. Well,
Yeah.
I was
No,
thinking like Baloo doesn't
that was Bill
sound
That was
like
Bill
Thor
Murray,
Hartman.
right? Yeah, Bill Murray.
Yeah, Phil, close enough.
Good try. Good save.
Yeah, right. Royal shows up. He's like, hey, and Raoden's just like, yeah, I trust your day has been as fine as mine. And he's like, can I come in? Well, yeah, I mean, it's your house after all. We are so unspeakably indebted to your kindness that I shall never manage to repay you.
Oh my god, I hate this personality so much.
But apparently they brought some solid gold lamp mounts from Elantris, and Royal sold them for him. He's like, yeah, you should
I love
be
lamp.
able to live comfortably for several years off of that money. Excellent. We shall immediately seek another place of residence. And Royal's like, no, stay. It's fine. I got this big house, and I'm all by myself. All right, then we'll stay as long as you shall suffer us. With a characteristic Duladin lack of decorum. See, they're also known for lack of decorum. It was said
Yeah, there you go.
the moment
What
you
are they
invited a
that
Dula
known
to
for?
stay, you would never get rid of him or his family.
I guess the opposite of all those things. So decorum.
Well, it's like apparently Galadon is the embodiment of everything a Duladil is not, so he's just a grouchy, polite motherfucker.
Well, and earlier it said that they were over-mannered. So I don't know, that's almost a contradiction, it seems like.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was
I'm gonna
pretty polite about it.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna write a book about Duladel or Duladin, and I'm gonna say it, Duladin, the people of the walking contradiction.
He's like, where did you get a dozen lamp mounts of solid gold? And he was like, oh, they were family heirlooms. I pried them off our mansion walls even as the people burned it down. And Ro's like, man, that must have been bad. He's like, yeah, no, it was terrible. But I have new country now and new friends, and you guys will be my family. So it's great.
It's like, word, you're cold, dog. And he's like, yeah, it was bad, but hey, I'm here now. Yay!
Oh, my girlfriend left me. Oh, my mom died. I got the van, though.
Yeah, my dad died. Got the van, though. His mom got deported, and
Oh,
his
that's
dad died. And so, but Royal's kind of trying to feel him out about, he's like, hey, all that stuff that happened back there, stuff like that may just be starting here. And he's like, oh, these troubled times, where can I find simple peace? And Royal's like, well, sometimes you got to make your own peace, citizen. And it's like, I hope I don't injure you by pointing out that others see you as rather frivolous. And Rowan's like, well, yeah, I hope so. I should hate to think I've been playing the fool for nothing. And so he says, how did you manage to escape Duladel? It's like, I can't tell you that. There's people who would suffer dearly if their part in my escape was known.
Yeah, if
And
I
this is
told you
where
that,
he-
I'd have to kill you.
Yeah. This is where he's like, do you know how many other refugees came up to the border? And he's like, I'm afraid not. I was a little busy at the time to be counting them. It's like, not a one. You are the only one that I know of that escaped. I hear the Republicans were too shocked to even think of escaping. He says, yeah, my people are slow to act. In this case, our lax manner proved our downfall. The revolution rolled over us while we were still discussing what to have for dinner. Which, ouch. Yeah, I mean, and he's not actually a duelist, so that's kind of harsh.
Yeah. And it's like, this is something he couldn't get from coaching from Galadon, because Galadon didn't know about this.
Right? Galadon wasn't there. And Galadon is in the room while he's saying this stuff, too.
Yeah, he's totally like just bullshitting his way and insulting Galadon's people right in front of him without having any actual knowledge if that's what happened.
Yeah. But Royal has decided to invite him. He's like, hey, you know where the Merchant Keen's house is? Meet there at sunset. And it's like, wow, that was really easy. Like, I was just saying, like, how are we going to get me invited to this secret meeting? And then, boom, there we go. And he's like, see, the secret was Royal. He sees through most facades, but unlike Serene, he doesn't think, why is this person trying to fool me? He thinks, how can I make use of what I know? I gave him hints, and he responded.
Yeah. That's why you're the manservant, Galadon, and I'm the leader.
But I like that description of Royal because it does make him sound a lot more slick than Serene. It's like he sees the same stuff he does. He just keeps his mouth shut and is like, how can I use this to my advantage? He's a sneaky dude, that Royal. And he tucks a makeup cloth into his pocket after putting some brown stuff on it. And Galen's like, what's that? And he says, something I hope I won't have to use. And of course, we know in the next chapter he's going to have to use it. But... So we cut to
I was
Serene's.
confused about that.
Yeah.
And I know we're not there yet, but like, does he use the makeup and put it on?
No, so, and I don't know if he describes it in this chapter or if it's a different chapter, but he uses the makeup cloth when he removes the illusion of himself looking like a Duladel.
Mhm.
That's he doesn't want anyone to know that he's using magic and it's an illusion. That's his explanation, is that like he has this cloth with this brown stuff on it, so he wants it to look like he just wiped it off his face and and that's what happened.
Yeah, but he wouldn't look like Raoden, and everybody said he looked like Raoden. That's what I'm confused about.
And that's what, and Serene calls it out. It's like he's trying to make it look. He wants everyone to believe that he wiped off some makeup and had a completely different face. Okay.
Yeah.
Not that it really matters, because then he immediately goes and uses some magic. So.
Yeah. I don't know. It's confusing.
Yeah.
But we cut to Serene in Keen's kitchen. It's like, what is he doing here? She hates Kalu so much. It's like that idiot Kalu sat in there dressed in a montage of garish reds and oranges.
Well, I mean, you know how these people feel about orange.
Yep. And Lugal's like, I don't know. Royal invited him. It's like, what has Royal gone mad? Serene asked, perhaps more loudly than she should have. What if that cursed doula is a spy? And he hears her, and it says, he asks merrily, a spy for whom? I don't think your pompous king has the political acumen to hire spies. And let me assure you, no matter how much I exasperate you, princess, I bother Fjordles even more. The Gjorn would rather stab himself in the chest than pay me for information. Oh, I love his character, just how not giving a fuck he is about everything.
I'm with Serene on this one. If I was dealing with a person like this, I would want to punch him. Like, this is the point where it's like Serene is Frank Grimes and Kalu is Homer Simpson.
Yeah, no, I totally see that.
Yeah.
Grammy, rest in peace.
And Royal's like, hey, Serene, you're the one who said not very long ago when you joined us that a fresh perspective is helpful. So, maybe don't discount his value immediately, because he happens to be a little more eccentric than you find comfortable. Ahan is late, as usual. Shuden and Eondel are there, having a subdued conversation. And she had specifically told Keen not to prepare dinner, but he'd made some food anyway, some snacks and such. She doubted other treasonous conspiracies enjoyed gourmet snacks. So, there's that. So they start discussing it. Like, what are we going to do? And Royal's like, if we had, more troops, we could actually maybe, intimidate him into doing what we want. Maybe Teod can send us some troops. And she's like, no, we don't really have that many land troops anyway. We're like a sea power. And also, my dad's not going to send any. Also, my dad has sworn himself to Shudrath, so he's not really going to help us stop them here. And Shuden's like, well, there's some resistance fighters in Duladel, right? And everyone looks at Kalu, who, he has to bullshit his way through this because he has no idea. He's like, oh, you don't want their help. They're mostly former Republicans, and they can duel fine, but against a trained soldier, they're not much good. The resistance only survives because the Fjordles are too lazy to chase it out of the swamps. And Shuden's like, but I thought they were hiding in the caves. And Ron's like, yeah, well, there's more than one group of them, so. And Serene can see. He's like, oh, he's uncertain. Who is this guy? And Lugal's like, I think we should bring the people in. Like, just encourage the common people to rise to our cause. And Eondel's like, well, yeah, I mean, that could work. Lady Serene's plan has given them a taste of freedom, and they've grown more self-confident in the last few weeks. But you can't train a bunch of men to fight overnight. It takes time. And Royal's like, yeah, Telri will be Derethi long before we can train up an army. And Lugal's like, well, I could pretend to be Derethi for a while, if only while I'm planning the king's demise. And Serene's like, no, yeah, we can't let Shudrath get a foothold, or it will never leave. And Ahan's like, you're taking it's just a religion. We have real problems here, Ahan says. She's like, oh, you don't think Shudrath is a real problem? Why don't you explain that to the Jindo and the Duladel? So, army of peasants is out, too time consuming. And Kalu is like, well, do we really want a war? I've seen what a bloody revolution can do to a nation. And so like, well, what are we going to do? We can't fight Telri. We can't wait for him to convert. So Eondel's like, well, we could kill him. Keen's like, yeah, I mean, assassinating Telri could solve some problems.
I love how Serene's just like, oh, we're on to killing him already. I hadn't expected that quite so early in the meeting. It's like, oh man, we skipped the small talk and we're cutting straight to dessert now. So we've knocked back a few drinks. We're just like, fuck, just kill him.
That's why I said no dinner. I wanted to get to the killing part.
Well, and everyone in the room is kind of like, yeah, even Raoden's like, one man's death to save a nation. But then he turns around, he's like, but what if we're underestimating the people of Erelon? Not just the peasants, but the nobility. I mean, haven't you sensed their hesitance to back Telri? Haven't you seen the discomfort in their eyes? And Keen's like, what about the guard? He's like, well, I wonder if we couldn't turn them. I mean, certainly they could be persuaded to see what they've done isn't right. The guard and the nobility support Telri because they don't see another alternative. Lord Royal was shamed by a failed wedding and Lady Serene thrown into Elantris. But now that embarrassment is removed, maybe we can show the guard the ultimate result of their decision, occupation by Fjordle, and the enslavement of their people. They will recognize they supported the wrong man. Give men an honest choice, and I believe they will choose wisely. That is when Serene realizes exactly who this is. Serene knew that faith, that pure belief in the basic goodness of all men. And when she suddenly realized where she'd seen it before, she couldn't stop herself from jumping up and yelping in surprise. And Raoden's like, damn, I let Kalu go too quickly and put too much of myself into this. The others didn't notice, but Serene, dear suspicious Serene, had not been so lax. We get like 2 paragraphs of Raoden point of view before jumping back to Serene. Ro's like, Princess, are you okay? And she's like, no, we need a break. Luke was like, well, we haven't been going very long. No, we need a break. And Ro's like, alrighty then, a break. And Keen's like, awesome, I've got some braggish meat wraps cooling in the back. Let me go get those. This Keen. I love that if you're going to have a conspiracy, this is a guy that you want on your side. He's smart, and he cooks delicious food. There's just no way to beat that. And maybe he's a pirate, right? So
yeah, maybe he can crush a throat or two. You never know.
Just send him in to kill Telri. There's your solution.
Yeah.
Like, King Telri is dead. How? His throat was crushed.
Who could have done it?
What's his wife's name?
Deora?
Yeah, he's like, Deora, where's my pirate suit? She's like, why do you need it?
Where's my throat-crushing gauntlets?
Yeah.
But it said, like, because wasn't it the Incredible she was saying, like, I've been planning this dinner? So it said, like, no, she'll have to be convincing him, no, you've been planning this dinner for ages. Like, shit, I have too. I don't want to forego that.
So they head into the back room, and Serene grabs him and, like, throws him against the wall. Like, Spirit, what are you doing here? He's like, hey, not so loud. I mean, how do you think they're going to react if they find out they've been sitting with an Elantrian all this time? And she's like, how did you even? And she reaches up and her fingers kind of go through. The nose on Kalu is bigger than Spirit's nose, so it kind of passes through. He's like, you were right about the Aeons. We added one line and it started working again. One line? Yeah, the chasm. It caused the Raod. And she's like, it works. And then she punches him and she's like, you've been lying to me. He's like, ow, please no, don't hit me. My body doesn't heal, remember?
Yeah, because that's why you shouldn't hit someone.
Yeah. Women, am I right?
Oh yeah, we
stayed out of that one.
Yeah, no, you absolutely should.
Yeah, I'm gonna sidestep that altogether. Talk about my beautiful little dog. He's a corgi, and he is great. No, he does lick a lot though. Can't get him to stop licking.
My cat will.
That's the worst thing he does.
Yeah, that's probably the worst.
Yeah.
But he explains that AonDor is still not quite working right, and she's like, "Why did you lie to me?" And he's like, "Hey, look." I like his response is, "You're gonna try and tell me this wasn't more fun?" She says, "Well, only you would consider that a valid excuse. I never got a chance to tell you. Every time I approached you, you ducked away and you ignored the letter I sent you, so I couldn't just jump in front of you and drop the illusion."
This is kind of your fault, just saying.
Right?
He's like, I came to Keeds last night to see you at the window. I brought the boombox and everything.
And she's like, you did? He's like, oh, yeah, ask Galadon. He's back at Royals eating all of the Duke's Jadorian candy. Did you know he has a weakness for sweets? The Duke or Galadon? I like how the conversation, she's just game for wherever the conversation goes. She's like, oh, wait, somebody has a weakness for sweets? Which one? He's like, both of them, actually. But anyway, they're going to wonder what's taking us so long. She's like, let them. All the other women have been mooning over Clue. It's time for me to fall in line. Oh, man. And he's like, it was the only way. I had to act the part. And she says, you acted it too well. And he's like, I didn't know you were such a good fencer. And she says, my talents are plentiful, and apparently so are yours. I didn't know you were such a good actor. I hated you. And she says, why did you come? And he says, to find you. And it says, she smiled. That was the right answer.
Oh, God.
Also, they're having a heartwarming hug.
And this is where he drops the hint, where he's like, you've done a wonderful job. Better than I could have imagined. I assumed these men would stop meeting after I left. And she goes, wait, what was that? What'd you say? After you left? And then people start calling, and he's like, we got to go back. Let's just say I have something else I need to tell you once this meeting is through. And they get back, and Ahan is gone. And they said, where's Ahan? And Keen says he left. Lukel says the Count claims he ate something that didn't agree with him, and he stepped out.
Immediately when he left, I was like, oh, no, double cross. Here it comes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, something bad's gonna happen.
Yeah, the characters not having that doubt in their minds was kind of ridiculous to me. I'm just like, okay, come on. He left in the middle of the meeting randomly. Yeah, no, it's not his stomach.
I like Lukel's response of being like, Well, I mean, the dude eats so much that it's a wonder he doesn't end up sick every night by the pure laws of probability.
Well, it's like, and it was very clear to me, it's like they took a break right after they started mentioning, like, we're probably going to have to kill him. It's like, okay, even for a Han, maybe that's too far. And without knowing the extra stuff that we knew after he comes back, it's just like, okay, yeah, he probably thought, okay, they're actually talking about killing this guy now. That's too far.
Yeah,
Well,
I know.
I don't necessarily blame him, but Telri's a horrible king, so maybe I kind of do. But there's a great bit that goes along with what people were saying earlier in the book, here in the annotations. He says, yes, Han is a traitor. When building this book, I knew I wanted to have one of the characters betray the rest, and I also didn't want it to be the most obvious one. This left me with a problem. I had to provide a character who no one would suspect as a traitor, and yet at the same time make it believable that he would turn traitor. The first thing I did was throw in Edon as a diversion. He worked perfectly. Virtually all of my alpha readers mentioned that they thought for certain he would turn traitor. So did Dak. So
Yep. I rode that train for a while.
I had Edon run off early because I wanted to lull the readers into a sense of security, thinking that the quote-unquote traitor character had disappeared already. And I didn't want to throw in a Han's betrayal while Edon was still there. I think that would have made Edon's purpose too obvious to those who could see the two contrasted in that way. Then I started foreshadowing it with the way a Han acts and speaks, without thinking through his actions. Mentioned this in a couple places. And finally, I begin to have him act suspicious. You can look through what's been going on to find out the way he's been acting. He was the person that when Telri became king, they sent him to talk to Telri for them, basically. And there's other little things that were dropped along the way to kind of give you hints. And he says, anyway, I think the other thing that lets me get away with Han's betrayal is that he doesn't completely change characters with the treason. He isn't a different person. He doesn't suddenly become a bad guy like happens in some stories. The TV show 24 first season. I didn't see that, but apparently he's kind of unhappy about how that went.
Wow.
Han just didn't think hard enough about what he was doing. He took his actions too lightly. Back there, we haven't quite gotten to that yet, but I like that part in the annotations. So Royal says, yeah, we should go on, and without him, there's no telling how long he may be indisposed. And then Royal says, so if everyone will forgive me, I have to say something. I never once debated whether or not we would have to take action against Telri. He and I have spent the last 10 years as enemies. He's a flagrant, wasteful man and will make an even worse king than Iadon. My reason for demanding more time before we met was not to wonder if we should just depose Telri. The reason was that for time to wait for some associates to arrive. Assassins, men I hired out of Fjorden. Not all people in that country are perfectly loyal to their god. Some are sworn to gold instead. So Royal has called in some assassins, and they're staying in an inn nearby. But he goes, I've changed my mind, though. This young man from Dulad, and then feet are clomping in the entryway before he can finish his sentence. The door opens, and there is Telri and a group of armed soldiers. And following them is Ahan. And Royal's like, Ahan, what have you done? And Ahan's like, I got you, old man, finally. I told you I would. Joke about how my caravans are doing now. We'll see how yours do while you spend the next few years in prison. And Royal's like, idiot. Did you not realize when this stopped being a game? But he's like, yeah, whatever. I got you. I've been waiting to do this for months. I could never get Iadon to take my warning seriously. So even back then, he was trying to warn Iadon about this group and what they were doing. But Iadon was like, no, Royal's my friend. He wouldn't betray me.
Woof.
Yeah, that is kind of sad. And Serena's stunned that this is the guy who betrayed them. It's like, I actually like this guy. How could someone I like do something so horrible? Telri snaps his fingers, and a soldier shoves his sword through Royal's belly. And Telri says, thus are the judgments of your king.
That's abrupt.
Right?
Yeah, that was just like, hi guys, stab.
I didn't see that coming.
Han did not see that coming either. He's like, no, you said prison. And he starts crying and kneeling by Royal.
Yeah, because they were buddies.
They were frenemies.
So he sends some of the other guards to go and find those assassins and throw them off the walls of Elantris.
Yeah, right. If they're really feudal assassins, no way some Elantrian guardmen are going to throw them off the walls.
Right? Yeah. Gonna get their asses kicked. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. It's like they walk in the door, they just get their throats slit immediately.
Right?
The building just blows up.
The rest of you kill the traitor, starting with
that would
the
be
dear
good,
princess.
cinematic. They just walk in.
That poor inn. What did the inn do to
The Fjordans don't care.
Yeah. Tragedy struck.
today as 60 innocent bystanders were killed in what appears to be a feudal assassination plot.
Oh, man. Yeah, so he orders them to kill everybody else, and Shuden and Indel are, no, don't kill the princess. And that's when a voice calls out, interesting you should mention usurpers, Duke Telria. I was under the impression the throne belonged to Iadon's family. And everyone turns, and there is Prince Raoden. Serene says her eyes found Spirit, or at least someone wearing Spirit's clothing. Toss a rag on the table, and she could see brown stains on it, as if he wanted everyone to believe he'd simply wiped away the makeup to reveal a completely different face. And Telri's like, Prince Raoden, no, you died!
You should have also had Marishi make him like a prosthetic nose or something, so he could just toss that aside as well.
I like how Telri kind of like reiterates. It's like, no, they told me you died. Like I know you're dead. They couldn't have lied about that. You're dead.
Same thing that happened to your daughter. How weird, huh?
Oh yeah,
that's true.
And Ron's just like, to the guards, would you dare slay the true king of Erelon? And now the guards aren't sure what to do, and Telri yelps, men, protect me, and turns and runs from the room.
He's like the worst. He's like the worst bad guy ever. He's like, protect me! Jesus,
run
guys!
away!
It's just like a Simpsons moment. Lionel Hutz is trying to take on Mr. Burns. He's like, we've got witnesses, precedent, a paper trail a mile long. And Mr. Burns goes, well, I've got 10 high-priced lawyers. And the wall just opens up. They're all looking at him, and he just goes, and runs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's so speaking of ridiculous bad guys, there's a great bit in the Mad Prince excerpts from the deleted scenes where it's like the Mad Prince dies and the officers of his army are trying Raoden for his death. Like, you're responsible for what happened to the prince. And Raoden basically accepts, like, you know, I think it's like, if you let Serene live, then I'll take the blame or something like that. And they're like,
what
okay.
even was this book?
But
There's a trial?
Yeah, well, and it's a really weird trial, but yeah. So he says, yeah, you know, I'll accept responsibility if you X, Y, and Z, and there's actually dramatic speech. It's kind of cool. But anyway, so they're like, okay.
You can't handle the truth.
Now you'll be executed as prescribed by Prince, whatever, I forget his name now. I told you before.
Mad
And
Prince Raoden.
So they have the guy, they have Raoden stand there, and the general takes the sword and closes his eyes and swings it, and he misses Raoden. And they're like, okay, execution done. And everyone's like, wait, what? It's like, oh no, that's how the prince told us that you perform executions. You close your eyes and you swing, and if you miss, the guy was innocent after all.
What?
So you let him It's
Okay, well, that's a good cut, because that makes no damn sense.
Thank God. Oh my God.
Can you imagine? We read that and it's just like, yeah, we missed, so you're free to go. Wait, what?
By the time you get to that, though, you totally buy it because of how insane this guy has been.
I guess. So basically, what you're saying was the original cut of this was a comedy.
Yeah, you know, a little bit.
Like, was the brother Jim Carrey?
Yeah, he was riding around on a unicycle. He's like, waka waka.
It's like, okay, it's one thing that the brother is insane, and like, okay, the brother's insane and he thinks this is how it's meant to go, sure. But everyone else would just buy that?
Right? Yeah, that's the insane part, that everyone's like, oh yeah, no, that's how we do it. He said so it must be true.
Yeah, the prince, I mean, he's the one who makes the rules. Just following the rules.
What's he gonna do? It's like, well, you're not following my rules, so I'm gonna execute you, miss. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and all the barristers wear wigs, because that's how we do.
But yeah, okay, away from the comedy to Royal dying on the floor. It's a very different sort of scene.
Well, if only the guard had missed.
Yeah, if the guard had missed, it would have been fine. But
I'm not gonna get over this.
Royal's dying, and Raoden goes up to him, and he's like, Raoden, you've returned to us. And so Raoden starts trying to draw an Aeon. He's like, I should have known it was you. All that silly talk about trusting people. Can you believe I started to?
This is a real heartfelt moment, you know. Gets the tear jerking a little bit.
Because we like Royal a lot, and we never got to see these two together before, but just from this short section, it's clear that they had a really nice relationship.
Yeah.
Royal says I should have sent those assassins the moment they arrived. Yeah, you probably should have.
Yeah, well.
Now the inn's going to blow up.
Exactly. It's all your fault. But he sees the Aeon. He's like, have you returned the beautiful city as well? But Spirit draws the healing Aeon. He does not know how to direct it specifically enough. So it tries to heal his whole body. A scratch on his face disappears. Some liver spots fade. But it's not enough to seal this gaping wound.
It's a real bummer. It's like, oh man, your liver spots are gone. You look good. But you're
You look
dying.
good. And he's
Your
like,
health is better.
I didn't study the modifiers. Damn it.
Yeah, this is a real sad moment, especially when you add on top that like he might have been able to save him, maybe. Yep. And also it's like you really see Royal, like he obviously believed and loved Raoden, like believed in and loved Raoden, like just the fact that he's like, have you restored the city? Like obviously he thinks Raoden could do anything. So it's a real sad moment.
Yeah, he says, don't cry. Your return is a blessing. You can't save this tired old body, but you can save the kingdom. I will die in peace knowing you're here to protect it. It's very sweet. And Raoden is like, you did a good job with me, man. Without you, I would have turned out like my dad. And he goes, no, you were more like your mother from the start. But we never met, so that...
Right.
I guess she was nice.
Everyone was singing her praises, so...
Yeah. And Royal dies, and everyone else is in shock from all of this shit that just happened, because that was a lot.
It's like, well, we lost one friend, but we got another one back that we thought was dead, so it's like, really, we're on an even keel.
Shuden, Eondel, and Lukel all fall to their knees and bow their heads, and Eondel goes, my king. And then Serene's like, my husband. And that's the end of the chapter.
Bum, bum, bum. It's like, yep, you're married again.
Or are they? I think it's still kind of up in the air about whether they're married.
It's true.
The marriage laws is just so confusing.
Yeah, because technically, I mean, I don't know if is he considered to be dead because he's an Elantris? I mean, I don't know.
But he's hiding the fact that he's an Elantrian too, so.
That's again, I'm confused. How is he hiding that? In what way could he be hiding it? Because he just
put
took
on an
the
illusion
off.
face?
Well, if he knew how to do that, then he should have just shown up as himself.
Yeah, he just took off one illusion and swapped it for another.
I don't understand the point of Kalu then. Like, if I was him, I would just show up as myself then, if I knew how to do that.
But then Brandon couldn't have had his sassy Dulladan character.
Well, but also, I mean, if he just shows up as himself, then that creates a huge stir. Before he even has a good handle on like, what's going on in the city, all of a sudden it's like,
I mean, I guess. I don't buy that, because he knew what was going on to an extent from Aish. If he shows up, that deposes Telri immediately. Like, immediately he's in control. So that really doesn't make any sense.
That's a fair point. Depending on how
would be dead.
It depends on how the soldiers react. Like, do they still back Telri, or do they change to back him? Because if they still back Telri, if Telri can bribe them or something enough to stay with him, then you may be starting a war by just showing up. Who knows?
I guess, but still, like, I don't know. It seems foolish to me. If he had the ability to make an illusion of his own face.
Let's get into predicaments, peoples. What do you think is going to happen in the 10 chapters that we have left here?
Ooh, I think there's still something to do with the patterns in the Aeons that he's drawing, because he's made comment about, there's these random spots and other things that don't quite line up. So I think there's something there to, unlocking the rest of the door or something. I did think, and I think maybe it was in my predictions last time, I did think that they were possibly going to be able to heal the city, and Serene and Raoden would end up together. But we had that whole bit about the well, not the well, wrong book. Puddle of water up on the hill.
Yeah,
where they go.
Yeah, the lake thing.
The lake.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, baby brain. Maybe that will still come into play. I was thinking that maybe Raoden would have to, be put in the lake. Maybe he won't make it out of the book. Serene would still rule Arelon, and he has to die to unlock the rest of the door, maybe to restore. That kind of brings back this one man sacrifice for the good of the nation. So I'm starting to think maybe things like that might come to fruition. But that's really all that I've got. I think Dilaf, yeah, I thought he was probably part of his assassin group. The Sportish people we don't really know much about, do we? Except that like Lucal and his wife studied over in Sporting. Yeah. So I was like, this is sort of introducing someone else again. And these other assassins are from Fjorden. So they're a couple of groups of assassins maybe floating around. Yeah, Raven, maybe we'll lose Raven. I don't know. I guess the next chapter we come back into is their chapter. We'll probably find out a little bit more about what Dilaf is doing. Dilaf the Mysterious. So yeah, I don't have a huge amount on there, but yeah, I think we're all in agreement that Dilaf is from one of those secret assassin people. But yeah, that's all I've got really this week. There's so much sort of up in the air at the moment, and I'm sure there's plenty up in the air that we don't even really remember is in the air.
Right.
But hopefully the next lots of chapters will start to put a few more things in place, and we'll have a bit of a better idea of where things are gonna go.
Yeah. Yeah, as we start getting into the part of the book where things get tied together, I can almost guarantee we're going to come across some things like, oh, right, that was a thing that we didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've only got 2 episodes left, yeah?
That is correct. 2 episodes.
Okay. So I've got sort of predictions for how I think the book is going to end. I don't really know how we're going to get to these points, but basically my thought is Eventio is going to show up in Arelon to basically to do his all right, got to swear homage to Raithen in person, everything. And so at some point he's going to bump into Keen, and we're going to finally work out what the hell went on between those two guys. And Eventio is going to die, and basically Serene will just straight up inherit the throne of Teo. And then somehow by the end of the book, like Raoden will be interred as king for Arelon, and then like they'll renew their marriage, and then basically the 2 kingdoms will become one, and they can unite and try and push back against. I feel like it's going to end on a we've solved our problems over here. Maybe Elantris is back on the path to being successful again, and they're just like, all right, now we're going to fight back against the feudal empire. I don't think we're going to topple the empire by the end of the book. I think we will deal with. I think Dilaf is going to be the final threat. So I'm really hoping someone just punts him into the dissolving lake, and then we just see him sink like Terminator 2. Because I think like he hates Elantrians so much he can die like one. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, so I feel like it'll just be united one nation. They're just looking back over the horizon. It's like, yeah, well now we can fight back against Feudal with Elantrian magic, and it's like, fuck yeah. But yeah, I don't know how we're going to get to any of these points. Like, I think we're all pretty sold on. All right, Dilaf is he is from Darkor, or at least one of the other monasteries, and like there is going to be a confrontation between him and Raithen. I think he is still going to be like a major part. I don't think he's going to convert to their side, to the good side, but I don't know. They might exile him or something, or maybe Galadon will kill him as revenge for what he did to Juladel. Like, that might be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know where he's tied up. I think I've said before, it's like some of his chapters is just like they're there to fit the triad system rather than to actually contribute to the story. So I don't know. I hope Raithen does a bit more, because Jamie was right. Like, he was so cool at the start, and then it's like he didn't really do as much as we were kind of hoping.
Yeah.
But yeah. So as I said, don't know how we'll get to those points, but that's where I think the book's going to end.
It really would be a big ask at this point to topple the Empire before the end of the next 2 episodes, right? That seems like going a long way.
Yeah. It's like, we'll send all the Seons just converge on Wern, and then they can just light bomb him to death or something.
Of course, at this point in the final Empire, if I remember right, we were like, oh, well, there's no way they defeat the Lord Ruler in this book. Probably, like, they'll have to regroup, and the final end of the trilogy will be them finally taking on the Lord Ruler.
I guess the difference there is like we were really focused on the Lord Ruler as the final boss of that book, though, and we're just like, do they get enough time to defeat him in the end? Whereas in this one, Wern is not really a presence.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, we're really focused more on Raithen and Dilaf than we are on Wern. So at least by this point in Mistborn, the Lord Ruler had shown up. So
right. Yeah, maybe Viking Pope will just show up and they'll kill him coincidentally and be like, oh, hey, we win.
He was just an innocent bystander in the inn.
Yeah. Tragedy struck when the Viking Pope was killed in a freak exploding in accident.
That's where he was staying. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
and then like the Svordish assassins just like, oh, we just killed one. Quick, Svorden can take over the world now. And this nation that we know nothing about. It's like, now we're in charge, bitches. Everyone eats raggish weed soup.
I don't have any really new predictions. I feel like the ones I've made in the past are probably pretty solid. You know, I feel like, especially now that the truth is out there to an extent, Raoden and Serene are going to kind of take the throne and then rule over Elantris and Erelon together. And I don't know. I still am not totally sure if he's going to figure out a way to heal their bodies or continue the transformation. My guess on that is going to be no. That they're going to be, perpetually in that weird state, and the Aeons will work, but not well. But it'd be nice if they could get the city back to like its former glory in some way. But I don't know. I don't know exactly how that's accomplished. So that is pretty much my main prediction. I don't know if Wern's going to come into it. I think it'd be more interesting if he did, but I really don't know. As far as Dilof's concerned, yeah, I hope he meets like a horrible end. But I feel like at this point, if he is gone or has a horrible end, then Hrathen kind of has to go too, unless Hrathen has a sudden like change of heart somehow and just decides to leave behind the feudal faith like completely. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have. I don't have a lot of extra to add, although I really like these chapters. I don't know that they gave me a lot more information to kind of come up with what we're going to see at the end here. So
yeah, no, I get that.
Has anyone that we know in the book met Wern? Like, did
Hrathen
actually meet him?
Yeah.
And so would know what he was like?
Yeah, and if Dilof is who we think he might be, maybe Dilof has as well.
Yeah.
At the very least, we know Hrathen's talked to him through a Seon, and you can see kind of the person's face when you do that, because the Seon looks like their face, kind of. So, but I'm sure he's
going to go out there as a really, really out there prediction. Wern is actually Eventio.
Whoa.
And he is Crush Throat, and then they will have the final boss battle.
Whoa.
Fucking
wow.
Just to throw something really, really out there.
Yeah.
Raid and Hrathen are about to just fight each other when they see those two going out. It's like, should we step outside?
What?
We should step outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you don't want to get involved in that.
Brothers.
But didn't we? I love that theory. But didn't we find out Wern's like a super young dude?
Yeah, he's young and handsome.
He's like young and hot or something. Yeah.
Maybe there's an illusion potion.
He's figured out how to do the same Aeon as fucking.
Well, no, because the Aeons weren't working, so it can't be an Aeon.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's
got to be the potion master guy.
Yeah.
That made the potion for Hrathen.
Sexiness potion. Yeah.
Yeah, sexy potion.
The sexy drifter is Wern.
Oh, wow.
No, that'd be quite a revelation. I'd be all about it. I'd be like, Fjordal, take this world.
Okay, we have one email this week, so I'm going to read that. It is from Rachel, and Rachel says, finally caught up. Oh, no. Well, it's finally happened. I've caught up on all the episodes. What am I supposed to do with every spare minute of my day now? Loved listening to you guys. I've been reading Sanderson for many years now, trying to convince anyone to pick up his stuff, to no avail, so this really scratched an itch. Just a quick question regarding reading order. Do you have a plan for what you guys are moving on to next? Yes, I have a plan. I have a very long plan for everything that he's written and where we're reading it all in. Although I will say that...
He hasn't shared it with us.
No, yeah, they don't even know exactly the order, which makes sense because they don't even know what all the books are because they don't know much about Sanderson. But
we get told around the same time as you guys what we're reading.
It's true. I will share something with everyone in that the plan was not to do White Sand next, but we're going to do the White Sand graphic novels sort of in the near future. Recently, they have said that they may be coming out with or there's a plan to come out with an omnibus of the 3 novels sometime this year, the 3 graphic novels, and it will include a bunch of additional information. And I wouldn't have waited for just the omnibus, even though I'm having trouble finding physical copies to purchase. But the fact that it will also have that extra information makes me think that maybe we will push that back some, just wait and see if this comes out, because that will be easier to find and we'll have additional information that we will get to read. So that may get pushed back a little bit, which just means that we'll probably end up returning to Scadrial sooner than I had otherwise planned. So there's new information for everybody about the reading order and some changes. She then asks, and will you be reading Warbreaker before Words of Radiance? Yes, is the answer to that. I know this is probably a long way off yet. Also, yes, that's a long way off. I just recently read Shadows for Silence and Sixth of Dusk, so officially read all Cosmere-related texts now. Fair to say I'm in deep. What are some of your favorite non-Cosmere books of his? I enjoy Legion, and Snapshot was a really fun story, which I felt was different from his usual stuff. Keep up the good work. You guys are smashing it. All the best from Scotland, Rachel. Well, and since the others can't really answer, I will say that my favorite non-Cosmere book of his is The Rhythmatist. It's directed at kind of a younger audience than a lot of his stuff, but I love it. I think it's hilarious and fun. And the only bad thing about that book is that the ending cries out for a sequel, and it's been many years and no sequel has come, so that part's sad. Thank you, Rachel. If anyone else would like to send us an email, the email address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You could find us on Twitter or Facebook, or we are up to date on YouTube. All of the episodes, except for obviously this one, because we're just now recording it. All the other episodes are up on YouTube now, so that is 100% up to date. Find us in all places. Yeah, right. I had some extra time on my hands and managed to get it all done. For next time, we are reading 7 more chapters, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60. So that will leave us with only 3 chapters and an epilogue for the episode after that. So we're recording this one and that next one back to back. So for you guys, read those 7 chapters for tomorrow. For everyone else, next week, 7 new chapters. That will be the bulk of what's left in this book.
Damn.
Yep. So we are almost.
Exciting. I love this point.
Yeah, this is when things really start getting nuts.
Yeah, technically.
I woke up this morning.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jamie.
I was going to say, I woke up this morning and I was going to say, I said to Dak, we finished the book this week? And Dak was like, no, not yet.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
You don't read ahead.
You could finish it this week, because then right after we record the podcast tomorrow, you could just finish it.
Yep.
Exactly.
Sure.
I'm so excited.
It is exciting. I love this time. It's exciting to get to finally where everything wraps up, but then it's also exciting to move on to something new and interesting that's next. So, music by Miracle of Sound, and Wuzzing to the Time of Next. Colo?
Money to a get up, get out.